Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to Current Issues in Human Resources Online, Spring 2019. I'm Dr. Grimes, and I'm going to be trying to guide you through this semester where we are going to be learning about what's going on in human resources. The class is very aptly named Current Issues. So the focus of what we're going to be doing this semester is looking at what's going on in the real world. We're going to be talking about some things that folks who are doing human resources are struggling with today. Most of the topics that we're dealing with don't really have right and wrong answers, but they are topics that senior management is going to be looking to HR for guidance on. So the better you get now at researching what other people are saying and what other companies are doing, the better you're going to be at being able to frame a conversation with senior management on what's happening with these issues. And ultimately what senior management wants you to be able to do in the real world is say, listen, I know that you, senior management, don't have the time to really spend looking at what's going on and what's the right answer or what's appropriate for our corporate culture related to these ideas or these issues. So we as HR are going to take on the burden of shoulder the responsibility of figuring out what is a reasonable proposal for our organization and how we're going to deal with this issue. In some cases, the issues that we're going to be talking about this semester are things that are really pressing upon us, and we're having to make a decision whether we're going to follow society or whether we're going to pioneer a new trail. In some cases, they are issues that are demanding an answer right now. In some cases, they are things that are on the horizon that we're going to have to deal with at some point in time in the next few months, in the next year or two. And if we go ahead and deal with it now, we're going to be a whole lot better off. That's a general summary of what we're going to be doing, just looking at ideas that are impacting human resources and the decisions that they make and the things that they do, and trying to learn how to go about researching things and make proposals for things which hopefully senior management will say, yeah, that makes sense, let's go ahead and do it. So what I want to do in this video is to tell you a little bit about our syllabus and what we're going to be doing and how you need to start thinking about the way that you will approach these activities in order to get the A or the B that you want. In some cases, reasonably, a C is all you really have to hope for in order to graduate, but I hope that you're striving for an A at this point. It's not really incredibly hard to do that. This particular class, as you will see as you look at the syllabus, is an awful lot of discussion boards. As long as you consistently do a few things every week, you should be able to get a significant number of points towards your discussion boards to make it easier to get an A in the class. But before I get too far ahead of myself, pause this video now if you haven't printed your syllabus yet, because you're going to want to be looking at the syllabus while I talk about the syllabus so that you can make some notes in the margin. I'm going to pause here just very momentarily so that you can come to the end of a thought that I'm dealing with, and it'll be a logical point to break so that you don't have to worry about missing something. Very good. A couple of seconds have gone by as I record this video, but maybe it was long enough for you to pause and go and pull up the syllabus and print the thing out, and you are actually looking at that syllabus now. A couple of things on the front page that we really want to look at. Up at the top here, I give you my cell phone number, 9380513. You will find that some of your business professors are very, very accessible. I hope that you will find that I am one of them. I would, as you see in the notice, I would prefer that you text me or that you email me on my Radar account rather than going through GeorgiaView or GoView to do this. One of the quirky things about GoView and GeorgiaView both is that you can forward email out of those things to a Radar or a Yahoo or a Gmail or whatever, but there's a wall built between the two that lets things go out but doesn't let things come in. So if you go into GoView and you send me an email to my GoView, I've got the ability to forward it to my phone, but then I can't reply to it. So I would prefer that you just email me on Radar, because that goes straight to my phone and I can reply straight back to you. So you go to your Radar account, you email my Radar account, and I can reply back to your Radar account. I don't mind getting text messages during the semester. try to keep that to a minimum. If I'm in my office, you can call me on my office phone at 931-4455, and we can spend some time talking. When I'm at home, obviously, like you, I kind of like to have my family time, and I'll deal with the issues that you've got and give you some advice and counsel when it is needed. But I'll trust you to try to keep that to the really pressing issues and not just a normal course of events. Generally speaking, I'll promise you that I'll get back, depending on weekends or whatever, no later than the next day, but you will find, if you haven't had me before, that I respond very, very quickly. In fact, sometimes I just happen to be logged into class or something, or I've got my phone next to me, and I'll respond immediately, and you'll go, wow, that was fast. It's just the luck of the draw and timing sometimes. Several learning outcomes, the majority of which is just being able to research ideas and present your thoughts in a logical manner that helps folks to say, yeah, that makes sense, let's do this. On page 2, there is no required textbook for this course, but you do need to join SHRM using a student membership. That is the Society for Human Resource Management. A year's worth of SHRM access, I think, is $40 when it's at the student level. So not only will you have the 4 months or whatever it is, 5 months of this class where you have access to SHRM, but you'll have an additional 6 or 7 months after this class ends. And if you're about to graduate in May and you've got something in HR lined up, you'll have access to SHRM right away upon getting into your HR job, and that's going to be very, very helpful to you. So go out and it's www.shrm.org. It's there in the syllabus. Go ahead and pay for that online. I don't know that you can get this through the GSW bookstore. I don't know that you can use Pell Grants and things like that to pay for this, but at $40, hopefully it's not critical for you. But you will have to have that. Sometimes you can kind of bluff your way without a textbook, even if you decide not to buy it, but you really got to have the SHRM thing, because you've got to do some research, and rather than giving you a chapter 1 to read, we're going to be giving you article links on the SHRM website to go read. In order to be able to continue in this course, we've got to verify our role and who's participating. There's 2 things that you've got to do by 11:59 p.m. on Monday night the 14th. That gives you almost a week from when you're seeing this, probably a little bit over if you're logging in the first day. You've got to post to a general discussion board, a hello discussion, where you just basically say, hey, I'm Mark Grimes, I'm in Americus, Georgia, I'm a junior, I'm a senior, whatever. Something interesting about me is that as you'll see in my Meet Dr. Grimes video, we've adopted several children. And then you also want to take the introductory quiz. Very, very simple, no right and wrong answers, really, other than the fact that I have read the syllabus, I understand the expectations, I'll abide by the rules, whatever. You'll give me in the introductory quiz a cell phone number and a non-radar email address, and probably I'll never use those things, but in the case of an emergency, if you kind of drop off the board for a while and I need to get in touch with you, I'll text you on your cell phone, otherwise I'll ignore that. That's the highlights of pages 1 and 2. What you're really interested in, I'm sure, is on page 3, and that is what is going to happen this semester. And you can see on the table that is at the lower part of page 3 there, that basically we're having a discussion board class. There's a discussion almost every week of the class, at least all the way to the very last couple of weeks, where there is one central idea that we're talking about. And all week long, you're going to be logging into that discussion board. You're going to be reading what your classmates have read. It works out well for this class because it's relatively small. When I have a class that's 20 or 30 people, there's lots and lots and lots of things to read. So hopefully this will be a little bit more manageable. You'll find that if you log in once, maybe twice a day, there'll be 10 or 15 messages out there to read, but it doesn't take long to read those. And I'll have another video here that you can watch in just a few minutes when you're done with this, where I give you some pointers on what to do with those discussions. Every week there is a discussion. I lead the first 2 to give you an idea of how I want them structured. And then you'll see, starting in week 3, we have teams where you will lead the discussion with your partner. There's an announcement out on the homepage where I've told you who's leading what week, so you can go ahead and start thinking ahead. Those of you who have week 3 have got to start doing something today, something this week, where you start preparing. Generally, the way that the plan will work is that if you lead, let's say in week 3, you back up 2 weeks to week 1 and you tell me what topic you want. And then That's all you do in week 1 is just to agree on a topic. In week number 2, you're doing a lot of reading in SHRM, and you and your partner are coming up with some articles that you want the rest of us to read. You're summarizing those articles into some main ideas, and you're giving us a discussion question. And you give me all of that toward the end of week 2 so that I can load it to GoView, and it's ready on Sunday morning early in week 3. Then during week 3, you and your partner are reading the discussion boards, you're asking us questions, you're clarifying things, you're getting us to think about different ideas, look at it from a different perspective, whatnot. So in a normal week, if you're not the leaders, you post a few times. If you are the leaders that week, you're posting more than that, because your job that week, remember that you have researched it, you're the experts the week before, the week of, you're drawing out ideas, you're adding ideas, you're posting more often than when you're not the leaders. And then the week after that, in week 4, you're giving me some feedback and some thoughts about it. And then, generally speaking, your level of involvement drops back for a couple of weeks, depending on when your week number 2 is. Other than working on a project that happens toward the end of the semester, that's basically it week after week. So you may find that unless it is your turn to prepare for a discussion and do the research, this class doesn't take a huge amount of time. As the beginning of the week rolls around each week, you'll want to get into SHRM and read the articles that the leadership team is... I have to forward my phone there for a second. You read the articles that they want you to read so that you have the knowledge that you need to discuss those things. As far as the grading goes at the bottom there, twice you will lead the discussion. Those are worth 100 points each. I'll share with you in another setting how I'm going to go about grading those things. It's got to do with the quality of the articles that you give me, how many, when you give them to me, how involved you are in the discussion boards, and some feedback that I get from your partner. Those are worth, notice one of the first things that you have to look at, and you've probably figured this out already being juniors or seniors, when you look at a syllabus, is it purely an accumulation of points to get my grade, or are things weighted differently? And in this class, things are weighted, so not everything is worth the same. Your issue leads are worth 25% of your overall grade. So what I'll do is to say you've got a 92 on this one, you got an 85 on that one. That's 177 points out of a possible 200, which is 87.5%, whatever the math comes out to be. And that 87.5 gets weighted at 0.25 for a number of points that go into a bucket called final grade. The discussions are worth 15 points each week. There's a separate video where I talk through how to get the most points out of that. It's really not hard to get all 15 points every week on that, as long as you do a couple of things regularly. And there's some settings that you have to take to change, perhaps, in your GoView master settings screens. And in that video that I'll have out there, it'll show you exactly how to do that. Those are worth 15 points apiece, a total of 195 points. At the end of the semester, you'll have 175 out of 195, which is so many percent. That is weighted at 0.20, which goes into that bucket for your final grade. Something that I've started doing with my online classes is tracking when you log into class. Something that I discovered a semester or two ago is that I can access something from the teacher side of things that tells me every single day whether you logged in or not. And it actually tells me how much time that you spend in the class on a particular day. I don't care how much time you spend in, but I want you logging in regularly. The GoView logins is worth 100 points. Every weekday, Monday through Friday, that you log in is worth a point. Whether you log in one time or 100 times, if you log in at least once, it's worth a point. It's kind of like the salary rule goes for the federal Fair Labor Standards Act. If you're salaried, as long as you're there, as long as you've logged in once, you get credit for the day. So for this class, if you've logged in at least once, it'll show up. And it may be that it shows me that January the 7th you logged in, and then the next time you logged in was January the 9th. So at the 8th you didn't. I will go in toward the end of the semester and create a chart where I give you a point for every weekday that you logged in. Now, if you log in on the weekends, there's no bonus, but there's no penalty for not. So if you want to log in on the weekends just to keep up with things, that's fine, but make sure that you log in at least once every weekday. Now, when there is a holiday like Martin Luther King Day or we're on spring break, that does not factor into the grading. So don't feel like you have to log in on those days. Although you can log in if you want to. It's not worth any bonus. It's not going to have any penalty. But the number of days out of whatever the total is, 35 or 96 or whatever the possible days are, weekdays, is going to be a percentage. You've logged in 75 out of 90. That's a percent, and that's going to be weighted at 0.10 into that bucket. Project toward the end of the semester worth 100 points. We'll talk an awful lot about that starting on February the 24th. That's still going to give you a couple of months to put it together. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, but you can mark on your calendar, February 24th is when all the instructions and the grading criteria and whatnot open for that. And then the final exam, nothing to really be worried about. Notice that there are no other exams the entire semester. This is online, but even the final exam is not going to be ProctorU. It's going to be basically giving me feedback on what you've learned, what's been interesting, that sort of thing. Page number 4, a little bit more information about those things that I just talked about. If you want to get into a little bit more detail about how I'm going to grade things or what the process is going to be, you can feel free to read through those. It's an accumulation of points that get weighted, and the sum of those weights creates your grade. So you've got to have 90 points or more after everything is all weighted and added together to get an A. 80 or more for a B, 70 or more for a C. You got to have at least a 70 or better to get this count towards graduation. General standards about what makes an A and what makes a B. On page number 5, the grade turnaround. Discussion boards open at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and they close at 11:59 p.m. the next Sunday. So you've got a total of 8 days to interact on those discussion boards. They close Sunday night. Generally speaking, Monday or Tuesday I go in and I fill out the matrix and I give you a grade. So you're going to have a grade on the discussion board each week by Tuesday at the latest. Issue leads and projects a couple of days after they close so that I can think about things within 3 business days. Generally speaking, as far as late goes, there is no way to do a discussion board after it's closed because you can't discuss things with people when they're no longer discussing them. So be active in the discussion boards. If you have to miss one because you're out on vacation or something like that, we just say we're going to miss one from time to time. You won't get 100% of those points, but it shouldn't hurt you too much. Page number 6, nothing really significant. Just expect on the weeks that you're leading the discussion or you're preparing for the discussion, you'll put some time into reading through SHRM and finding articles, working with your partner to come up with what we want to do during our week. When you're not leading, you at least have to go in and find the articles and read those articles and try to understand those articles. Page number 7. Let me know during the semester if you think something's not fair as far as grades. At the end of the semester, it's too late to go back and try to recover something that wasn't fair all along. So if you think it's not fair how I'm grading the discussion boards, you'll see part of the discussion board grading is how many of them you read. And if your setting isn't set right, it's not going to give you credit for reading things that you really have read. But 6 weeks in, it's kind of too late to go back and say, I've been reading these things all along. Keep up with your grades and let me know if something doesn't look right. Last page of the syllabus, the critical dates, link to Galileo, which you really don't need for this class. And that's the summary of the class. You get real good at doing the discussion boards. You'll get those points. You do a reasonable job working with your partner as you're setting up the week and you're active in the discussion the week of that you're leading. You'll get those points. The project, I didn't mention when I was talking about this, the project is 35% of your grade, but hopefully we will have opportunities starting February 24th to kind of talk about how to do that, what's the best way to go about doing that, what do you need to be thinking about to make sure that you've got everything that's in there that's required. And even if you get a B or C on the project, which happens from time to time, it doesn't kill you because you've gotten a chunk of those points and you've done pretty well, generally speaking. The final only 10% of your grade. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what you need to do to do well in this class. And it gives you an idea on the front end what we want you to be able to take out of this class on the back end. The really key thing is being able to research SHRM to find out what's going on, what people are thinking, keeping in mind that the SHRM articles are not academic, they're not research, they're not study-based, they're just what people think, what people feel. So they're not academic literature, but they're good, interesting reading. It's good information. Learning how to research that, find out what people are thinking, learning how to put your thoughts together into a logical presentation and a logical proposal is going to serve you well in the real world of HR. When senior management says, hey, this is what I'm hearing, I don't know what to do about it, you tell me what I should do. And then you go research it and you come back and say, this is what I think you should do. Boom, 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 boom. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's how long it's going to take. Here's the repercussions. Here's where we're going to have pushback. Here's what we're going to do about it. And senior management says, great, I knew we had you here for a reason. I'm glad you're on the team. At any rate, that's plenty about the syllabus. Be looking for a few other videos as we go about how to set up your discussion boards, how to get the most points. When we get towards the end of February, how to go about doing this project thing and so forth. And as always with my videos, if you have questions that I haven't anticipated here, go out to the class discussion board, ask Dr. Grimes, send me an email, send me a text, whatever, and we'll make sure that you understand what you need to know to do well. Don't want you to do poorly because you assumed something or you weren't clear on something, so let's get it cleared up before we start. Hope that makes sense to you, and I am looking forward to a good semester. I hope that you are too.